So we're going to pick it up from where we left off in the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Divinely Prepared by Noble Drew Ali. Chapter 38, Holy Instructions from the Prophet. Topic, the soul of man. O blessings, O man, of thy external part is health, vigor, and proportion. The greatest of these is health. What health is to the body, even that is honesty to the soul. So health is on the same plane as being honest to the soul. That thou hast a soul is of all knowledge, the most certain of all truths, the most plain unto thee. So we have a soul, and discerning truth is plain. Be meek, be grateful for it. Seek not to know it perfectly. It is inscrutable. It's complex. Thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing, call not these the soul. So thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing are not the soul. Call not these the soul. They are its actions. So these are the actions of the soul, the product of the soul. Thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing are the products of the soul, the actions of the soul, but they are not its essence. Raise it not too high, that thou be not despised. Raise what not too high? So you are not despised. Don't get too cocky in your abilities to the point where you're despised. Be not thou like unto those who fall by climbing, neither debase it to the sense of brutes. So what are we talking about here? What is neither debase it? So raise it not too high, thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing, the soul. But at the same time, don't debase it to the sense of brutes. So when you're talking about, I mean, whoever doesn't know what debase is, if this is not making sense, when you look up debase, we're talking about a reduced quality of value. When you look up brute, you're dealing with the characteristics of savagery, violent, animal instincts. So you don't want to raise it too high to be despised, but at the same time, you don't want to fall to the level of savagery, animalistic thoughts, and that's it. That's your ceiling. Nor be like to the horse and the mule, in whom there is no understanding. Right? So it's levels. You want to be even keel. Back to the analogy with the pendulum. Not too high, not too low. In the middle. Think not with Arabia. So before we go on, as we know, Noble Drew Ali, 360 degrees of knowledge that he was bringing to people. So he says things in a simple sentence. He'll capture an idea in a simple sentence, right? So when you look up Arabia in the metaphysical Bible dictionary. And we'll go to it right now before we continue. The word Arabia, Metaphysical Dictionary by Charles Fillmore. Metaphysical definition of Arabia: an outer or Gentile state of consciousness that in its wild, ignorant, undisciplined, and settled nature is destructive in its tendency, and is unproductive of good. So we just let's ponder on this. So up here, we talked about debase, and debase or lower the level to the sense of brutes, right? So debase, reduce the quality of, and brutes is dealing with the characteristics of being savagely violent or animalistic when you look up brutes. So don't reduce the quality to the sense of that of being an animal or savagely violent. And then when we look up Arabia, right? Ignorant, undisciplined, unsettled nature is destructive in its tendency. So he's telling you, he's expressing the same thing. Those who are ready to receive will receive. Continuing, think not with Arabia that one soul is parted among all men, neither believe thou with the sons of Egypt, that every man hath many. Know that as thy heart, so also thy soul is one. So don't believe that, for one man has many souls, or that one soul is parted among men. Like men are divided, it's one soul and we just getting a piece of the soul. Or neither that every man have many souls. Don't believe none of those things. We all have a soul individually, like a fingerprint, back to the fingerprint, one of one. Know that as thy heart, so also thy soul is one. You have one heart, you have one soul. It gave 3 examples. Now let's go to Egypt. When you look up Egypt in the Metaphysical Dictionary, Bible, you're going to find the definition: mental bondage to sense thoughts, material consciousness, pertains to the physical senses of life. You're just concerned with the physical. I visually showed you one definition of Arabia. You can look it up for yourself on the second definition of Egypt. All right. Think not with Arabia, right? All right. So doth not the sun harden the clay? Doth it not also soften the wax? So the same sun hardens the clay and it softens the wax. As it is one sun that worketh both, even so it is one soul, will of contraries. So the will is one soul, but the will can fluctuate. It's one sun, but it hardened the clay, but it softened the wax. As the moon retaineth her nature, though darkness, as the moon retaineth her nature, so she falls back, though darkness spread itself before her face as a curtain, when the moon falls back, the darkness, right, as a curtain, so the soul remaineth perfect, even in the bosom of a fool. So no matter what it's looking like, the clouds can cover the moon or cover the sun, it still is what it is. Your soul could be in the vessel of a fool or the bosom of a fool. The soul still is what it is. You just must go through different channels and practices to make the diamond pop, make the jewels come out. We all have a choice to do that or not to do that. That's our divine faculties. She is immortal. She is unchangeable. She is alike in all. Health call her forth to show her lovingness, and application or anoint her with the oil of wisdom. You get wise after you apply things. Application means action. As you go through having, physical experiences, whatever those experiences may be, you learn something. So later on, if something similar happens again, you're going to make a decision that's most optimal because you've seen it before. Wisdom. Although she shall live after thee, think not she was born before thee. She was created with thy flesh and formed with thy brain. Justice could not give her to thee exalted by virtues, nor mercy deliver her to thee deformed by vices. These must be thine, and thou must answer for them. We can be virtuous, or we can be deformed by vices. Vices are addictions, undisciplined habits that ultimately lead to a slow destruction, so to speak, right? Just giving comparisons. We have a choice to be virtuous, right? And virtues are dealing with what? What's the definition of virtue? Showing high moral standards, right? You look that up. So that's what when they're using virtues, if whoever don't know what virtue means, that's what we're talking about. You have a choice to live a higher standards or not. Suppose not death can shield thee from examination. Think not corruption can hide thee from inquiry. He who formed thee of thou knowest not what, can he not raise thee from thou knowest what again? Perceiveth not the cock or the rooster the hour of midnight? Exalteth he not his voice to tell thee it is morning? For the cock-a-doodle-doo. Some people appreciate the cock-a-doodle-doo. It's like an alarm clock. Exalteth, to hold in high regard. In hold high regard, not his voice to tell thee it is morning? Once again, the cock-a-doodle-doo. Right? Exalted. People hold that in high regard. Like I say, that's some people's alarm clock. At the same time, at midnight, don't you still perceive if not the cock at midnight? He's not cock-a-doodle-doodling at that time, but you still perceive it. The rooster is there. Knoweth not the dog the footsteps of his master? Fleeth not the wounded goat unto the herb that healeth him? Yet when these die, their spirit return to dust. Thine alone surviveth. Envy not to these their senses, because quicker than thy own. Learn that the advantage lieth not in possessing good things, but in knowing to use them. So don't envy a person because they may do things better than you, or whatever, retain information, whatever the case may be. Everybody's different. The most important thing is to learn the advantage lieth not in possessing good things, but knowing to use them. So everybody has a toolbox that that should be a lifetime try to learn. The toolbox in one aspect is the chart. Knowing your chart, that's one. And that's a lot that comes with that. That's going to take you on another journey. That's just a small example, right? Knowing the 12 chambers of the body, another example. It's always something to be learning about thyself. Knowing to use them. Hadst thou the ear of the stag, and whoever doesn't know what a stag is, that's a male deer. Hadst thou the ear of the stag, or were thine eyes as strong as the piercing eagle? Didst thou equal the hound in smell? Or could the ape resign to thee his taste? Or could the tortoise her filly? Yet without reason, what would they avail thee? Perish not all these like their kindred? So all of these, you might not can hear like the deer. You might not have piercing eyes like the eagle, or can see as far as the eagle. You might not can sniff like the bloodhound can smell. Right? Doesn't matter. They are first of all these things are going to perish. All these animals, people with their own skill set are going to perish. For one, that's one thing we all have in common. So don't get caught up in the hype. And two, learn how to work within your toolbox, to bring that diamond out. You know what I mean? Islam Amu, Islam Hanuda.
Islam.
So hath anyone of them the gift of speech, right? The stag, the eagle, the bloodhound, have any one of them the gift of speech? But the humans, we got speech. Can any say unto thee, therefore did I do? The lips of the wise are as the doors of a cabinet. No sooner are they open, but treasures are poured out before thee. Lips of the wise are as the doors of a cabinet. No sooner are they open, but treasures are poured out before thee. Like unto trees of gold arranged in beds of silver are wise sentences uttered in due season. So the wise man speaks in due season. Every time the wise man opens his mouth, treasures are coming out. These are the symptoms of wise people. Characteristics of wise people. Canst thou think so greatly of thy soul? Or can too much be said in its praise? It is the image of him who gave it. Remember thou its dignity forever. Forget now how great a talent is committed to thy charge. Whatsoever may do good may also do harm. Choice. Beware that thou direct its course to virtue. What is virtue? We just talked about that. Showing high moral standards. When you look up virtue, the definition is showing high moral standards. Beware that thou direct its course to virtue. Direct its course to high moral standards. Think not that thou canst lose her in a crowd. Suppose not that thou canst bury her in thy closet. Action is her delight, and she will not be withheld from it. You got to deal with your tendencies. I think last week, astro diagnosis, knowing your chart, you're gonna know your tendencies and how to adjust accordingly. You can't hide from it. You can't run from it. You have to adjust accordingly and deal with whoever you are, chemically, astrologically, cosmologically. Her motion is perpetual. Her attempts are universal. Her agility is not to be suppressed. It is at uttermost part of the earth or parts of the earth. She will have it. Is it beyond the regions of the stars? Yet will her eye discover it? Inquiry is her delight. As one who traverseth, as one who traverseth the burning sands in search of water, so is the soul that thirsteth after knowledge. Once again, for those who came in late, the topic or the chapter is Soul of Man. As one who traversed the burning sands in search of water, so is the soul that thirsts after knowledge. Guard her, for she is rash. Restrain her, for she is irregular. Correct her, for she is outrageous. More supple is she than water. Whoever doesn't know what supple means, the definition, bending and moving easily and gracefully flexible, such as water, right? Because water is going to form to the cup, the mug, the pot. It's going to form. For she is more supple. For more supple is she than water, more flexible than wax, more yielding than air. Is there aught that can bind her? Right? Unbindable. Her. We're still talking about the soul of man. She. We're still talking about the soul of man. As a sword in the hand of a madman, even so is the soul to him who wanteth discretion. The end of her search is truth. Her means to discover it are reason and experience. But are not these weak, uncertain, fallacious, or the root word fallacy are basically expressing error? Uncertain and erroneous, right? Why? How then shall she attain it? General opinion is no proof of truth. So once again, the end of her search is truth. Her means to discover it are reason and experience. But aren't reason and experience, are not these weak, uncertain, and full of fallacy or error? How then shall she attain it? General opinion is no proof of truth. General opinion is no proof of truth. For the generality of men is ignorant. The generalness or generality of men are ignorant. So just saying stuff with no type of cross-referencing, no proof, people just flying off at the mouth, parroting what they heard from somebody else. That's an example. That's ignorant. Perception of thyself, the knowledge of him who create thee. When you know yourself, you're tapping into who created you. You're tapping into the universe. You're tapping into Allah. When you perception of thyself, know yourself, the knowledge of him who create thee, the sense of worship thou owest unto him. Be not these plain before thy face? Behold, What is there more than that man needed to know? What else do you need to know outside of yourself? Because when you know that, when you know thyself, that opens the door to something else. Your vibe is different. People picking up on that. More people gravitating to you. Any analysis, things that want to be talked about before we transition to astral diagnosis with this soul of man topic? Right. So let's transition to where we left off. In Astral Diagnosis, The Guide to Healing by Max Wendell. Chapter 8, Hints and Helps for the Healer. Once again, the perspective of a doctor diagnosing the patient based on cosmology, astrology, the chart, specifically the ascendant. We learned that it talks about the willpower and things like that. So just a quick recap for those that might be the first time tapping in. We're on chapter 8, Hints and Helps for the Healer. Never, never predict the time of death due to your patient. Let the reader repeat this injunction so as to impress it firmly upon his mind. If you predict death to a patient, you may become his executioner. And before your God, you will be held accountable for a great wrong. There is an old adage which says, while there's life, there's hope. No matter how strong the affliction may be in the horoscope, sometimes divine providence may lend a hand, and very serious periods may be passed without the proper help. 2, the law does not permit a layman to diagnose disease for others. Only the licensed physician may do this. 3, the wise healer will never discuss disease with his patient, nor will he diagnose to the patient. He will keep his knowledge for his own use in healing. 4, at all times, keep the patient's mind, if possible, from thoughts of disease. And before leaving, give him some pleasant thought to help him along. Laugh and joke with him. Always leave him with a smile, for cheerfulness is half the cure. Refrain from asking him the question, how do you feel? This has a tendency to throw his thoughts back to his physical body, which in illness is a good thing for him to forget. Let your words of greeting be, what a beautiful day. I'm glad to see you. Any greeting is good that will bring cheer and help the sufferer forget his pain. 5, never discuss, or 5A rather, never discuss the patient's horoscope with him. If he insists, however, then give him encouraging hints, but never tell him of an impending crisis. 6, sick people often have a morbid desire to probe into the future, to know of any impending crisis or of possible death, especially if they have some knowledge of astrology. The healer should request the patient to discontinue the study of his own horoscope while he is under his care. Otherwise, he will find that many adverse suggestions obtained from such study will appear in the mind of the patient, which will hinder the healing. 6a. There are lines of force running between the two poles of a magnet, and there is in all nature a positive and negative side. The human body is a most powerful magnet expressing both the positive and the negative aspects. The human body is a most powerful magnet expressing both the positive and negative aspects. When a man is ill, he expresses the negative side of his nature, and therefore the healer should and will, if he is the right healer, express the opposite aspect, namely positive. When this is done, the patient will respond quickly and the healing will be successful. When a man is ill, he expresses the negative side of his nature, and therefore the healer should express the opposite aspect, namely positive. When this is done, the patient will respond quickly and the healing will be successful. Therefore, it is very necessary that the healer express positiveness and cheerfulness in the sick room. When a man is ill, his power of resistance is at its lowest ebb, and he is very sensitive to influences from without. At that time, the currents of the vital body are turned inward, and he is apt to attract thoughts and magnetism from others, which is negative, will have an adverse effect upon him. When a man is in good health, vital body ethers radiate outward, and thereby keep out negative elements. Also throw out impurities. When one is ill, his power of resistance is low. And at that time, the vibrations of the healer have a great effect than at other times. His influence is therefore powerful, either for good or evil. If the healer's thoughts are not pure, if his life is not clean, then his influence on the patient is not good. Therefore, it is most necessary that the healer live the life of purity. Otherwise, he can do more harm than good. If the healer's Saturn is on the ascendant or in the sixth house of the patient, he will have little success in helping the latter. Once again, if the healer's Saturn is on the ascendant or in the sixth house of the patient, he will have little success in helping the latter. 10. The healer with the sun in Scorpio or with Scorpio on the ascendant is usually successful. The sun in fiery signs, 11. The sun in fiery signs give good healing power. Also greater power over the diseases of those signs than is possessed by others. People born with common signs or people born with common signs on the angles or with the sun in a common sign makes the best nurses. They have power to soothe the sick, and they bring a quieting influence into the sick room. When Saturn is the afflictor, and we should know what afflictor means by now, right? These are the negative traits. When the Saturn is the afflictor, the skin is often very dry and the vitality low. Rub the skin briskly with rough bath gloves to stimulate circulation. 14, people with Virgo on the ascendant or with Sun in Virgo make good nurses. People with Virgo on the ascendant or with the Sun in Virgo make good nurses. 15, to calm a patient who has an afflicted Mars, it is well to choose Saturn. It is well to choose a Saturn hour. To calm a patient who has an afflicted Mars, it is well to choose a Saturn hour. 16, people with Saturn in the 6th house rarely make a success in the art of healing. 17, when the patient is suffering with nervous trouble, but Mars is not afflicted, it is well to use a Sun or a Mars hour for manipulations or ministrations. 18, when the moon is increasing in light, namely between the new and full moon, stimulants have the greatest effect and sedatives the least. So sedatives don't work when the moon is increasing in light. Between the new moon and the full moon, stimulants have the greatest effect during that time, but sedatives have the least effect during that time. 19, when the moon is conjunction Saturn, stimulants have very little effect. But should the moon be conjoined to Mars, especially if Mars is strong in the horoscope or is in the sign of Aries, the healer should be most careful in administrating stimulants. Ali Khan, Islam.
Islam.
So chapter 9, aphorisms. 1, the moon may be regarded as the giver and the taker of life. That is, the moon acts as a medium in carrying the life forces from the sun to the earth and man. That's fire. The moon may be regarded as the giver and the taker of life. That is, the moon acts as a medium in carrying the life forces from the sun to the earth and man. And the moon forces also eventually produce death. 2, when the moon is full, the tides are higher. The bones are fuller of marrow. And oysters are fuller than at any other time. The temperature is then also highest in fevers. Diagnosing the body, this is specific. This is very specific right here. They're letting you know when somebody has a temperature or a fever, it's going to be very high if they have that during a full moon. That's specific from the lens of a doctor, like just to know that, like, you know how ill this is crazy right here. Like, this is more science right here. All right, so during the first half of life, particularly in childhood, the moon has greatest rule. And during the later half of life, the sun has the strongest influence. The moon has great influence over insane people. That is, lunatics, luna, and over hysterical, epileptic, and nervous patients. These patients feel the changes of the moon very greatly, especially are they very restless during the full moon. They should never sleep with the moon shining on them. At the new moon, the material forces are weakest. The period of the waning moon, namely between the full and the new, is strongest for spiritual work. Once again, the period of the waning moon, namely between the full and the new moon, is strongest for spiritual work. For at that time, the influence of the sun is greatest. Specifics. That's fire right there.
Islam is right on point. Right on point.
Yeah, that's I've never heard. I heard about the tides, but I've never heard how they going into it, like as far as the fevers and
The body, the fever, and the psychiatric patients.
right. So you're right.
That was right on point because me working with them, I've noticed that too. I used to, watch and see when it was a full moon, and usually that's when most of the chaos would start happening in the house. And because plus, mind you, these clients are on medication too. So the medication is being stimulated at the same time with them already having psychosis. And I just wait for it to come. I'm like, something's getting ready to happen. I already know. And it does. And I usually would monitor behavior around that time.
Right.
This,
That's fine.
this is so on point. Oh my goodness.
That's fine. Yeah. So number 6. Do not perform an operation when the moon is in the sign which rules the part of the body to be operated on. Come on, man. This is fire right here. Do not perform an operation when the moon is in the sign which rules the part of the body to be operated upon. So
Wow.
don't get no head surgeries, Aries. Get no intestinal operations, Virgo. You know what I mean? When the moon is in the sign which rules the part of the body, right? So keep that in mind. Operations. So number 7, operations performed at the exact change of the moon are rarely successful. So when the moon's on the cusp, operations are rarely successful. Choose the time for an operation when the moon is waxing, or, as it is commonly termed, in the light of the moon. Do not operate when the sun is in the sign which rules the part of the body to be cut. 8, the moon revolves around the zodiac in about 28 days. Disease reaches a turning point every 7 days. Starting from the place of the moon at the beginning of the illness, a change may be expected in 7 days, the square. On the 14th day, the opposition, and on the 21st day, another square. The moon rules acute disease. The sun rules chronic disease. It is well to watch the squares and opposition to the moon, to the transiting sun, Mars, and Saturn when operating. The moon has greatest rule over the health of the woman, while the sun influences the health of the man. From the new to the full moon, stimulants produce the most effect, and sedatives are the weakest. Decrease the dose of the one and increase the other. When the increasing moon is in good aspect to the radical Jupiter or Venus, cardiac stimulation produces the most lasting results. Once again, when the increasing moon is in good aspect to the radical Jupiter or Venus, cardiac stimulation produces the most lasting results. Precipitation is most efficiently treated when the moon is decreasing and aspecting the above planets favorably. Apply heart stimulants with extreme care when the moon is evenly aspected to these planets, and especially when it is dark or waning. 14. Good aspects to the radical moon from the transiting Jupiter and Venus are very helpful. Saturn, when placed in the 6th house of the horoscope at birth, has a tendency to lower the vitality. The sign in which the sun is at birth is a very vital locality in the horoscope, its influence varying according to its cardinal, fixed, or common would be mutable. Also, the house containing the sun, be it cadent, succedent, or an angle, is important. From the strength of the sun, you may often judge the response which you will get from your patient. Benefic aspects between the radical sun and Mars give great vitality and resistance to disease. An evil aspect between the sun and Mars is better from a health standpoint than no aspect at all. Aspects to the ascendant and the midheaven are often unreliable unless you are absolutely sure of the minute of birth. And as clocks are frequently off time and there is much confusion in regard to different kinds of time, these 2 points should be used with great discretion. Planets that are in critical degrees have a greater influence, either for good or evil, than in other degrees. Certain fixed stars have a powerful influence on disease, especially should the 3 following nebular spots be watched: the Pleiades, 29° Taurus, Alcili, 6° of Leo, and Antares, 8° of Sagittarius. A child with no aspect between the sun and Mars is subject to many children's diseases. So a child with no aspect between the sun and Mars is subject to many children's diseases. A patient with many planets and airy signs require more air in the sleeping apartment than others do. That's specific right there as well. So a patient with many planets and air signs require more air in the sleeping apartment than others do. Planets and fiery signs incline one to require much sunlight. So fire signs need sun. And people with planets in watery or earthy signs suffer from too much sunlight. Interesting. With fixed signs on the angles and afflictions and common signs, the native overcomes disease. With fixed signs on the angles and afflictions and common signs, the native overcomes disease. When common signs are on the angles and the afflictions and fixed signs, he is more apt to succumb to disease. A well-aspected sun, when in the sign of Aries or Leo, gives great vitality and an ability to throw off disease. So a well-aspected sun, when the sign of Aries or Leo, gives great vitality and an ability to throw off disease. When people with Aries rising or sun, or the sun or Mars in the sign of Aries at birth or ill, their temperature rises much higher than that of other patients, and they suffer much more quickly from fever. For there is a tendency of the blood to rush to the head and to the skin. An affliction between the sun and Saturn, or a square between the moon and the sun, gives low vitality. When this condition is found in the horoscope, it is well during illness to watch the progressed moon in aspect to these afflicted planets, and also especially the transits of the new and full moons. Retrograde planets give very little help in disease. Regardless of whatever they are, in good or evil aspect, their influence is latent until they turn direct. Then we may look for their awakened influence. Planets, when they turn from retrograde to direct, are slow in motion. Their influence, while in this slow motion, is not as vital or as powerful as when they are swiftly moving. Planets are strong when in signs of their own nature. Also, when in aspect to planets which are incompatible signs. So planets are strong when in signs in their own nature. So, Mercury and Virgo is an example of the planet having its own nature. When the hour of birth is not known, a fairly accurate diagnosis may be obtained by using a flat chart, i.e. by placing Aries on the first house, Taurus on the second, Gemini the third, etc. Saturn's influence is contracting. Saturn's influence is contracting, while Mars is loosening. The sun rules the vital liquid, which is specialized through the spleen. So this is the Kundalini they're talking about now. How I was talking about the other week, how it's the land of milk and honey. Sun would rule that gold sappy substance, and the moon will rule the milky substance that's traveling from the spine to the medulla oblongata. All right, so the sun rules the vital fluid, which is specialized through the spleen. The sun is afflicted at birth. Disease frequently occurs when progressions of the planets afflict the sun. When the radical sun or moon is within orb of Pleiades in 29 degrees of Taurus, the Ascili in Leo 6 or Antares in Sagittarius 8, trouble with the eyes is indicated, especially if Saturn, Mars, or Uranus is also at one of these spots. Mercury in the 12th house, afflicted by the sun, Saturn, Uranus, or Mars. Also Mercury in Capricorn, the house of Saturn, when afflicted by a malefic, will affect the hearing. Watch the malefic planets. So once again, when we're talking about benefic or malefic, benefic, good traits of the sign or the conjunction, are malefic, negative traits or conflicting traits of the sign or planets or conjunctions or whatnot. So watch the malefic planets when they are placed in either the 6th or the 12th house. The 6th being the house which has rule over sickness, and the 12th having rule over hospitals and places of confinement. It is necessary to observe the antipathy between certain signs and planets. For instance, the fiery Mars may be positioned in the water sign Pisces, or the cold earthy Saturn in the fiery sign of Aries. When a planet is in the sign of its detriment, it may especially become a menace to the health. The place where Saturn is found in the horoscope is most likely to be the weak place in the physical body, the place most easily affected by disease. The Lucifer spirits from Mars aid in maintaining the heat of the blood by dissolving the iron, a Mars metal, and enabling the blood to attract oxygen, a sun element. Run that back. The Lucifer spirit from Mars aid in maintaining the heat of the blood by dissolving the iron, which is a Mars metal, and by doing that, enabling the blood to attract oxygen, a sun element.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Aries always got something pretty unique. I noticed jumping off all through this book. Okay, I think I'm almost done. Let me see. All right, 39. A patient with the planet Mercury in square aspect to Saturn is apt to suffer from gloom. And once again, you can look at your chart and then read this book. Just compare, like, all right, you know, it's all cross-referencing, 40. The sign of Leo on the ascendant with the sun in his exaltation sign. Aries gives abundance, vitality, and power to throw off disease. If a disease is caused by an affliction of Mars, we may look for help when the progressed moon reaches a good aspect of Venus. When the disease is of a Saturn nature, we may expect the greatest help when the moon aspects Jupiter. Note the symbol of Venus, the higher octave of Mars, and that of Jupiter, the higher octave of Saturn. In each case, the latter symbol is the inversion of the former. If the moon is in conjunction with Saturn at the beginning of a disease, we may expect that the disease will be of long duration. Disease related to the moon is of an acute nature and may change within 28 days. But when the disease is related to the sun, it is of a more chronic nature and likely to be of longer duration and more stubborn in resisting treatment. So we'll conclude with that chapter. Let's open the floor for some thoughts, analysis, any notes that were taken mentally, physically.
Well, I got a lot of the part of seeing how the oxygen and the blood is so powerfully stimulated. I didn't. I think on number 38 when he talked about that is such a force. How the blood can heat up at a certain time with the moon, and then it controls during that time, controlling the oxygen going to the body. That's really like I don't know, that was just kind of powerful to me. All of it is so powerful right now to me. Everything so enlightful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm this was a jewel right here, this book, coming across it.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the first time I've heard, this type of parallel and
Yes.
being so specific,
Yes.
diagnosing. This is not like just a general, very specific.
Very
And
specific.
it's just repetition about like, knowing the angles and what that mean and different things. Having that schematic or the tool belt of just knowing what things mean. And after that, it's just about just diagnosing, like, all right, what's going on?
Exactly right, and just start diagnosing right. I'm getting ready to have my chart read too, so I can kind of, utilize more of this at the angles and knowing the houses and how I'm affected on certain times and everything when the moon and sun, in my, when I'm dealing with all that. But at the same time, just imagine. I mean, all of this information, of course, we know that is not used because the pharmaceutical companies are not here to help heal you. But this, like, if you had, mm, if the patients were going to hospitals and doctors are using the same diagnosis, we wouldn't have sick people. This is so crazy. This is so crazy. And it's so outright in your face that they're trying to kill you.
Yeah.
On that we're really actually the pharmaceutical companies are literally trying to kill you when this information is right here for anybody to have. It's right here. And this is information that could be used, but it's obviously not because they're trying to kill us.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so good. Mm.
Yeah. And this is Astro Diagnosis,
Hmm.
the Alien by Max Heindel
Yeah,
and
okay.
Augustus Foss Heindel, his wife. And
Hmm.
you see that Rosicrucian.
Rosicrucian. Now, what is that? What is Rosicrucian? I missed that when you broke that down. What is Rosicrucian?
It's an order.
Like another order? Okay.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
they pretty much Masons, he
Okay.
like the gateway.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's a brotherhood, right?
Okay.
Max
Yeah.
Heindel, Rosicrucian Brotherhood.
Mm.
So, these guys know, high science, things like that. They essentially know more science, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Because this is more science. This is it. This is definitely more science. They had to have gotten it from us. That's the whole thing. And look at when he wrote it back in 1800s.
Right.
So he was freshly digging up the information, or someone had taught them, you know,
Mhm.
taught them. And we did teach them in the Masons. So they probably gravitated and just grabbed that information and ran with it.
Right.
All
Right.
you gotta do is look. You just gotta look at the Shriners. They still be rocking them rocking handles. Are Freemasons.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The Shriners is a different order. Where I mean, to be a Shriner, you have to be a Freemason, and it's a different like group of people that they claim they get together and do good for society or whatnot. But they have little rituals where they wear a Moroccan hat, but they're all hybrid Europeans for the most part.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that. But the fact is that they know this information and they all have it. This is so clear as to what you know we need to have exposed, but it's right here, but only people don't want to know about it. People run from this information, especially when you try to teach our own. You really have to be ready and open-minded to receive this because it's the truth. So if you're not mentally ready, you're not going to hear it. You're not going to receive it, and you're going to think, "Oh, that's just oh yeah, okay, that don't mean nothing. That's some, oh, that's that old witchcraft stuff, thinking about the stars and the moon and all this and everything. I just go to the doctor,
Mhm.
mindset."
Right.
And I just gonna say that, like they plague the world already to think that astrology is bad and evil. So
Exactly. Islam says
Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the Bible says
Islam, yeah, that's what I was
like,
gonna say though. If you like even with our court dates and stuff like that, they know which day is your weakest day. So they make you come in on that date to come to court. So all this information we dropping right now, they know this information, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in secret. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they could use the,
And make us scared of it so we won't know how to, you know, counteract it and stuff.
Oh,
we
that's
police ourselves. Yeah, we police ourselves in our head.
Right.
But that's it. That's spirit of fear. That's the whole thing. Put more fear in our minds about what we're thinking, and it's gonna, we're gonna run from it. So that fear is the key. That's it. You said it. Okay.
Hey, Islam Moors, Islam Moors. That's it's, I was just sitting there and I was thinking as far as just like how she was just stating, as far as a lot of fears are being placed upon our peoples, as far as, you know, astrology and different things and utilizing your intuition. And it's just, it's wild to me how all this came full circle. As far as this past week, I've been seeing Luna and I seen Luna. So I did a little research, you know, lunar system, the moon and everything. And then as far as the moon rules emotions and, you know, a lot of other counterparts, and it's just wild how all this, you know, just came just, I mean, you know, just full circle. So it's like, it's deep. I mean, you know, and it's like everything, it's like, I'm saying that to say as far as getting back to symbolism and utilizing your intuition and seeing the symbols and understanding the signs as far as like what they say we're supposed to be in fear of. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? So we get so far away from that and saturated into pretty much, you know, conditioned into the system not being intuitive anymore. You don't even know what's going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
every time they talk about stuff like that, even the Bible says to not collect crystals and stuff like that. And then there's also a verse that says, "Lead not unto your own understanding." But earlier when we were reading about not fully understanding the soul, I think that's kind of what they mean. But they don't, obedient, people, obedient slaves will be like, "Oh, no, what you're thinking, your intuition is not valid." The Bible says, "Lead not to your own understanding,
Right.
follow the rules of the land." That's all they want to hear.
That is so ironic. That's ironic that you mentioned that. And that's ironic that you mentioned that because of me growing up in Christianity. I remember that verse, and that verse stood out to me in my spirit, young. It's lean not to your own understanding, and I just really never that pricked my spirit to question everything from that point on. I don't know within me that it just didn't work. It didn't vibe because I rebelled after coming to that revelation. Okay, all right, I'm not listening to this anymore because it's not that I felt within myself that me being able to question should be valid, and it wasn't.
Man.
So lean not to your own understanding. That's deep.
Wow.
It also states in Exodus 28 about crystals.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The crazy part, this whole time we've been seeing the stars and the moon and the sun and just like, oh yeah, it's a full moon. And then that's it. It's like we didn't understand the influence it have on the earth and within us, you know. So they not just up there, you know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff going on.
Wow. Yeah.
Exactly.
As above, so below.
As above, so below. Mhm. That's
I was
awesome.
I was thinking about too, when we was reading the Quran, it ties into the astro diagnosis because verse 28, the perception of thyself. So having
Mm.
perception of thyself,
It's
the
no longer.
knowledge of you're gonna have knowledge of him who created thee.
Mm-hmm.
So you tapped into the pulse of the universe, and knowing yourself is knowing Allah, because we are an image of all, So
Yep.
Mm.
it's all tied in,
Facts.
Thank you. Know what? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who's going to talk? No, thank you for bringing that up, Mafi, because that was another thought I wanted to add to this. That right there, that note number 28, I wrote that down too. We're coming to that, knowing thyself is a start to knowing Allah. That was it was a powerful comparison to, I'm just going to share with you guys today. Today I had a holistic healing reading assessment from one of the empresses, you know, and she did, it was a 3-hour assessment. And in that assessment, it was so detailed because it was the study of my skin, my eyes, my nose, my mouth, my hands, and everything was red, and different things that surface on through those areas will reflect things that are going on in your body. That was how her assessment was. And she was right on point for everything that she detected in her assessment with me. And during that revelation of knowing that, it was like, wow, I was in another ascension, because it was like my and a light just went off, like I'm knowing myself, you know. Wow, I'm knowing myself. My body I have puffiness under my eyes because of inflammation, you know. I have, you know, I'm looking at my hands, I have certain lines that go, you know, this is just my hands, but they mean certain things. And the way that they're, you know, the way my fingers are apart or spaced out means that something else is going on within my internal organs. And she broke it all the way down. And I believe that that's, once all of this is healed within myself, you know, it would be my self-awareness of knowing myself even closer to Allah, because this was amazing. I think everybody needs to at least have an assessment, because you will find things about yourself that you can fix before things get to another level, you know. And I'm going through inflammation, arthritis. I've been diagnosed from the doctors for the past 2 weeks. I've been dealing with a swollen knee. So that really came from the inflammation, and her diagnosis today showed nothing but inflammation. I have inflammation that is starting to occur in my intestinal areas. And that's the areas that I'm going to focus on from this point, you know, to just try to heal. So I'm going to do a reverse healing, just start fixing it now. And I thought that was so amazing. So I related that experience today to the number 28 of knowing thyself is a start to knowing Allah. And I'm there today. I'm glad I could express that with you guys.
Yeah, Islam.
Islam, Islam.
And
Is,
I'm gonna say the whole Egypt part, or what was that, Arabia? I don't know if y'all caught that. Or 6, think not with Arabia.
Mm.
And then we went to the metaphysical Bible. We went to the definition, the metaphysical definition of Arabia, the metaphysical Bible by Charles Fillmore. An outer or Gentile state of consciousness that in its wild, ignorant, undisciplined, and unsettled nature is destructive in its tendency and is unproductive of good. So if one did not go to the metaphysical Bible and you were to continue to read this sentence, think not with Arabia, that one soul was parted among all, right? So now that you know that, you're saying, what are you saying? Think not with ignorant consciousness. Think not with undisciplined consciousness, destructive nature, right? And I'm reading the book, actually, the Jamal, the Muslim versus Muslim, and basically, essentially, what he's doing is he'll bring up the Quran by Prophet Muhammad and do a comparison on how it's pretty much the same. It's the same book. But I'm noticing though, in the Circle 7, he'll make quick one-liners that express a whole paragraph in that other Quran, the Q. That's the only difference. It's very straight to the point and esoteric. And that's why I brought out the metaphysical Bible dictionary on certain things, because it was meant for you to take that step. He's saying things in such a way where you gotta go study and analyze.
Yeah.
Taking you to it, but are you vibrationally at the level to discern?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
Mm.
yeah, the metaphysical Bible is all it go hand in hand with a lot of this stuff, because there's a lot of biblical references and things like that. That if you were to even read the Bible, King James, whatever, and just have the metaphysical Bible next to you, a lot of those allegories and stories will make perfect sense. You'll see the symbolism what it's trying to express, you know, a lot more.
So do you have one? You have the metaphysical Bible? Is it on Amazon?
Yeah.
On Amazon? Okay. Good.
So here's one. It's a PDF, but it's by Charles Fillmore. It's the same one, but yeah, it's probably about $15. It's not too bad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Find out
I think
what
I have one.
Gentile
I'll probably share it in the chat.
Oh, that would be great. Islam.
I'm kind of curious to find out what the metaphysical definition of Gentile is, if you have it.
Let's scroll down.
Hmm.
Like the religious people will say Gentiles are the hybrid European race or something like that. Or, you know, and then when I read it of what it was saying, not to not act undisciplined, kind of says like to not act like foreign. I don't know. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, I'm looking for it now. Let's see. Geezer. Okay,
There
Gentile.
it is.
Gentile plural, or I'm trying to see if it's single. Okay, that's the only one. So Gentile, Latin, the nations, peoples of all nations, peoples outside of the given body, metaphysical, worldly thoughts. So the metaphysical definition of Gentile, worldly thoughts, thoughts pertaining to the external, or thoughts that function through the senses. The Gentile is the unregenerate state of mind in us. So basically, worldly thoughts. Thoughts that function through the senses. So basically, the senses control the thoughts. Basically, that's cardinal, cardinal thoughts.
That's like lower self, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, everybody should get them a metaphysical Bible that's in the toolbox, because a lot of the things, especially like Noble Jew Ali and different prophets, they're going to speak in the metaphysical tone on some things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do. I kind of when I studied those books, like metaphysical Bible, of course, etymology, then geographically, topologically, cosmology. You know what I mean? You use all of those elements to get a full understanding of it.
Right.
Oh yeah.
One of the notes that I had took, I put basically, when you don't know yourself, it'll make you feel like a lunatic. Like when you're not in tune with the cycles of the moon, because the moon control your emotions. That shouldn't make you feel like you crazy. A lot of people who are in mental hospitals, like it's all emotional imbalance. A lot of people be tapped into other shit and they don't know how to process they messages and they symbols, and that shit take over their mind type shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt that too.
No
It
bullshit.
Mm-hmm. I could
No
see that.
bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody else have any thoughts on the Quran or the astral diagnosis?
Yeah, they both was on point though. They both was just dropping gems on every side, tying them in like knots. You know what I'm saying? And it was fruitful. Like it's real fruitful on both sides because you get the aspects of learning thyself, like the mother just said. But then you seeing yourself in the universe. You know what I'm saying? When you look up, and most of us really don't look up. You know what I'm saying? We be down, like we be straight ahead. You know, whatever it be, but when you actually look up into the stars and shit, you can actually see certain shit. You be like, man, okay, what it's like to look inside yourself when you meditate. You know what I'm saying? And it's a beautiful thing because now you could travel in ways where you like, yo, like, okay, I see what it is. I see what it is to fly again. You know what I mean? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Prophet said, he just wants you to think again. You know, that's the main thing, is just for you to think.
Using all the sciences, all the ologies. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yes.
sure. That's different thoughts, you tapping into different, different all kind of stuff, especially the planets, and
Oh, yeah.
they
Yeah.
influence those things. So you said the sun is chronic, right? Sun is chronic and the moon is acute.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy.
What stood out to me too in the Quran, it was saying, search it by its faculties, and know it by its virtues, speaking on the soul.
Mm-hmm.
When you look up faculties, it's going to say inherent mental or physical power. So search your soul through the mental or physical power. We went over virtues dealing with high moral standards. So essentially you're saying search your soul through your mental or physical faculties and through your deeds of high moral standards. Because when you're showing those characteristics, that's the pure soul. Because that's what those pure, what your soul wants to do before it gets intercepted by the flesh and cause it to kind of do other things, or it's a tug of war or purity or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So that stood out to me as well.
Yeah.
Anybody else had any thoughts?
Also, number 17.
17.
As far as the wise man, is like the cabinet, and once you open it, the gems basically just roll out.
Ooh.
Right. The lips of the wise.
Yeah, yeah.
Treasure.
Yeah.
So a symptom or characteristic of someone being wise is when they drop jewels or treasures. Characteristics. And then the next line, because it's a follow-up actually.
Yeah.
Like unto trees of gold arranged in the bed of silver, or wise sentences uttered in due season. So the wise man uttering wise sentences in due season.
Yeah. I like that one. That one resonated.
That was fine.
That was good.
But yeah, anybody else for close out?
I'm good.
Empress is talking about like people who are crazy, they're tapped into different realms, but they can't necessarily digest that. So that's why they act up, or is that what you were saying?
I think in some cases that's what it is, and for the most part, some people do drugs and they get stuck in other dimensions. Like That's why you
Right.
see people talking to themselves and shit. They see stuff that's not there. They not on this realm with us. Like mentally, they somewhere else.
Yeah, that's like, okay, like when you see a drunk person and they get drunk, like, and they really tired and they still drinking, it's like lucid dreaming at that point because you fighting sleep, fighting that drunk, and it's like like you ready to fall out kind of feeling, but you just trying to hold on at the same time, and it's like you get that pool of energy to where you, all right, man, I can either slip to either side, I could try to fight this or keep going or go with it, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically what that feeling be like. You know what I mean? When you see that shit and they be going through it, they really in that shit. They lost. They not here. They in a whole nother realm.
But
Like,
sometimes too, like people who drink that much too, like your vibration is low. You allowing the other energies to creep in your body. Like you don't know
yeah,
what's
Mm.
going on. Like
yeah, it's like a vampire. Like when because you know a vampire can't enter unless you let him in, and you off
and
that
that's
liquid.
why they become addicted to that shit. Like the entity
Yeah.
is in their body and they gotta keep eating that shit. They don't know how to get it off of it.
Mhm. Mm.
Word up.
Yeah, I be thinking it's that indoctrination shit because it's kind of like,
Hey,
you know, they say it ain't no such thing as ghosts, but what's the difference between a ghost and a spirit? It's like, you know,
Right.
so it's like if you listen to them and you see something and it's talking to you and now you crazy. So you saying to yourself, you are crazy. I see
Right.
this and nobody else see it. I hear this and nobody else hear it. You
Yeah.
know, and that's based on what they taught you though.
Mm.
So if you knew what we knew now, you know that, oh shit, I'm tapping into something powerful, really.
Right. Right.
You know?
And I'm only speaking from experience because I've been to that point to where I was thinking I was fucking crazy, but then I'm like, hell no, I'm not fucking crazy. Like, they trying to give me
I
pills
talk
and
to
all
myself.
kind of shit. Like, hell no, something else is going on. Like, and I'm gonna figure it the fuck out. Like, no.
That's right, Empress. That's right.
Yeah, man. So how you like the book, Hakeem?
Hey, that book is it was very informative. And like the last time we had spoke as far as my competence on as far as being in proper persons and how to, you know, just pretty much, I mean, you know, express and let everybody know as far as, you know, what state you're in, as far as, you know, your mental mind state and your capacity. And that lays you up with everything. You know what I mean? As far as I done read it about 3 times now.
Mhm.
And like I said, it's very informal. And it just gives you know what I mean? You know what I mean, your rights and knowledge of, you know, the laws and everything, contracts. It just gives you more of a confidence of traveling, of moving around, just everything as a whole.
Mhm.
And shit, I'm glad you did it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm glad it resonated with you.
Mhm.
That's a good thing, man.
Mhm.
Nah, for sure. Ultimately, you know, I was casting out a few things that I wanted to see in the future. And you know, a piece of it was guidance. And you know, everything, you know, aligns when it's supposed to align. It, you know, it's never on your time because you're not in control of, you know, the time. It seemed like you're in control, but you're not in control of it. So, you know, in that space, you got to understand to be patient and persistent. But
Mhm.
everything lined up in the way it was supposed to, and it was just, you know, it ain't no coincidence, man. Everything is aligned, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, man.
Mm.
That's the experience, man. Like just going through and just living your life, man, with with conscious intention of what we talked about, the virtues, and you
Mhm.
know, knowing yourself, knowing your tendencies, and just try to be the best version of yourself. and, have good dealings with people, build with, we building with each other, and let that be what it is. This is, everybody on the Zoom, we looking like, look, man, we family, quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Islam.
Islam.
We centralize everything. That's how, you know?
I'm very grateful for y'all to have me here.
Yeah.
I really am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Glad to have all the notes. So and the Moabites. Peace of love.
Yeah.
Because it's a kinship, you know what I'm saying? Because it's all a magnetic pull to where everybody was enlightening at a certain point of like across the land and just tapping into the information, and then the information pulls that magnetic pull like any currency, like whether you're gonna pick up while it's moving in the frequency or not.
That's right. Gravitating to, like minds, period. And that's gonna just be natural.
Exactly, raising the consciousness level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anybody, friends, family, colleagues, if you sense that they like-minded, like I say, we bring them in, like I say, economically, competently. We need it. We need to continuously grow. And, in a sense, it's like marketing, like a natural marketing. Because you do,
For market.
for the people though.
Okay. Look, I've been doing some research, and I don't know if anyone here is aware of it, but does anyone have any knowledge as far as remittance coupons and pretty much as far as the process and send them back to the conditional payment or where they receive conditional payments?
Yeah, you're talking about that's if I'm not mistaken, that's an IRS OID process, which me personally, I haven't seen it work. Me personally, I haven't seen a physical person that did that and it worked. Yeah, that's all I have to say, on that.
Okay. I mean, I was just doing some research on it, and I mean, as far as the research I did, everything checked out, exactly as far as, that it's law. And by law, they're, UCC codes, they forced to comply or discharge the debt, even if it's not accepted. But I mean, like you say, it's I mean, I don't know the way as far as they was filling it out, or the different methods as far as the process and filling it out, or whatever the case is. But I've heard it's successful. I mean, and if we going by everything by law, this is stating by law. This is how this is work. This, this is how it works.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I definitely hear you. I guess what I'll say this back to the Quran lesson, right? Man know not by being told. So basically, once you get all the logistics, you do it for yourself, right? And then the answer gonna be right there. Test it out and see what happens.
Yeah, simple.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, remember.
now nobody can tell you nothing about your experience.
Exactly. Because you're gonna see a
Sure.
lot of things that's law. You're gonna see a lot of things that you're like, wait a minute, and you gotta still understand that, we dealing with criminals. So that's like, trying to work out something with, what I mean? Like, so you just gotta let the divine lead you to that. If you be the first one, then that'll be a great thing. You know what I mean?
For sure.
The
And
divine
that's like how you said, let the divine lead me here. It's like I done ran into so much information, and I'm getting all the way into being more in my intuitive state and understanding. If it run across my my desk, it got to be for me. It got to be something here for me. So I just been implementing all the information, just acting on it instead of allowing it to just lay dormant and not do nothing with it. So yeah, we're gonna find out real soon.
Islam.
Yeah, man. And that's the
Wow.
beauty. That's the beauty of having multiple bodies in a society, because it's like we,
Mhm.
we can cut to the chase. We can have people just pull the trigger, see what happens. All right, bam. What, yay or nay, and then keep it moving. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
one person ain't gotta waste. You know what I mean? Or dedicate too much energy on one thing. There's multiple people here. No, we all should be doing something in a unique way that is advantageous for the collective.
Right.
Simple.
Mhm. That's exactly right.
But
Oh,
Yeah, because as you've been in the more science for a certain amount of years, you'll see the same topics keep coming up with new individuals. So I'm happy you have the initiative to, at least step out there and give it a try. There's a lot of people say it, but then they don't actually do it. And they looking for someone else who has done it, what I mean, to give them more, influence or, you know what I mean? So I feel like, yeah, that's good. When you know your lane, like once it comes to you, that might be your lane, you know what I mean? So I would say dive deep, bro.
Oh man, I'm in there, man. I'm in fear of nothing. It's like I said, it came to me for a reason.
right.
It's like, I understand how manifesting, I understand how things coming to fruition, and I understand when you've been sent the boat, a helicopter, and a search crew. So it's like, you gotta understand and pick up on when things run across you. So it's like I said, I just been implementing it, and I'll let you know the progress, within the next, because I had to pretty much a part of the process is getting your bills in the paper form, because pretty much now they telling everybody to go e-wireless or e-bill, in which you can't even do this process. So that makes too much sense to me, because it's like every bill you get, they talk about paperless like it's saving a tree. Nah, they trying to save their ass. So you can't get they keep getting their money that you send them with that coupon. So it's just like I said, it's just something I'm gonna have something for us in the next couple of weeks. Cause I just changed everything over to paper. So once I fill them out, send them in, we're gonna know what's going on.
yeah,
I'm on that one.
it's all good, man. I just like how you passionate, man. You seem passionate, so good energy, man. Anybody else?
Appreciate it.
Yes. Anybody else had any thoughts before we close out here? It's echoing. All right. We'll be back on a holy day at 8 o'clock. Also, if people can put their mind on a recreational gym at a park between LA and Long Beach or Lakewood, Person, any that type of space where we can have a basketball game or a league or whatnot with the other Moors that I spoke on last time.
Hey, the only thing I would say is like Cerritos Park. You know what I'm saying?
That's outside though, right? Is it a gym?
They got outside, but they got an indoor gym.
I do.
Go in there, chop it up.
Okay, well, let's kind of scout it out. Let's start by looking around.
There is something that you do religious that I've seen. Brother Amazite, they, you know what I'm saying, suggest. So
Okay, we'll be on it then. We'll work on that then. But so that I want to put that out there as everybody kind of put their mind on that, because this got potential to, and like I said, it was a suggestion brought to me. I got the phone call from the Moore that we frequently saw at Lamert Park. And like I said, he thought about me that was playing basketball with another Moore, Dolphin Nail. And it was like, man, let's shoot some hoop, man. Let's our body over here and your body. Let's just get some games going casually. It'll be a way to mesh or whatnot, so to say. Get to know each other, etc. And yeah, like I say, expansion, we'll see how it goes, you know?
Hmm.
So I'm gonna put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that,
All right.
anybody has nothing else to say, I'm gonna close out and see everybody on the holiday.
All right.
Islam.
Islam, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Islam.
Islam more. Have a good evening. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Mhm.